Welcome to the Intimate Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Alexandra Stockwell. I'm a physician and an intimate marriage expert, and I specialize in showing couples how to have incredible, passionate relationships. I've been married for 25 years. My husband and I have 4 children and full professional lives, and we've created an amazing relationship. If you want to deepen your understanding of your own relationship and learn to access new heights of emotional, sensual, and erotic intimacy, you're in the right place. I will show you how now. Let's dive in. I've been thinking about you, and I want to focus on what in so many ways is the most important topic, and that is how to ask for what you want in such a way that it feels really good to give it to you. This is something when it comes to getting your partner to clean up the clothes they've discarded as they got undressed last night. This is true when it comes to wanting to move to a new location, a new home, or not to move. This is true when you want your whole family to do something together when they don't really want to do something together. Each one is focused on their own thing, or some are and some aren't. This is true when it comes to speaking with your partner about how you want to be touched or that you want to be touched. Learning to ask for what you want so that it feels really good to give it to you is quite the art, quite the skill. I actually devote an entire day in my Desires course to this topic. The course is designed for women, but what I'm about to say in the rest of this episode certainly applies to anyone listening. But the course, it's called Desires, Awaken the Woman Within, and I'll have the link to it in the show notes. Anyway, one of the days of that course is devoted entirely to learning how to ask for what you want so it feels really good to give it to you. Because in general, what happens is someone wants something and either you don't ask for it, you don't feel you deserve to have it, or you ask for it and it's so vague how you've asked that the point isn't even made. A lot of people live in that spot. Or you ask, but it really does not feel like you're asking. It feels like you're demanding. It's a request or an invitation that is seasoned with resentment, disappointment, and all of the backlog of feelings that you have for as long as you've wanted this and not asked for it, or as many times as you've asked for it and not received it. Either way, you don't end up getting what you want. And you probably think it's because your spouse is unwilling to give it to you and really just doesn't care about your experience. Well, I'm here today to tell you that's probably not true. And I want to focus the conversation specifically on talking to your partner about couples coaching. This comes up a lot where a woman will reach out to me, a woman in a heteronormative relationship, and she'll let me know that she would love so much for her and her partner to do couples coaching with me because she wants more of what I talk about. She wants more juice, more passion, more emotional intimacy, deeper connection, and her guy just is unwilling. She doesn't even know how to bring it up, or she brings it up and he just closes it down, or she brings it up and he listens and then he closes it down. This is an extremely familiar scenario. Let me just say it's not the only one. There are lots of times when, even if just one of them reaches out to me, both people in the couple are really excited to explore working together with me. That is, of course, an awesome way to begin, but it's not the only way and it's not required. Another scenario that I encounter frequently, actually, is, again, a heteronormative relationship. The wife is slowly more and more aware of how dissatisfied she is, she finally, first gently and then more emphatically, tells her husband. And for whatever reason, he doesn't get it. He doesn't realize what she's saying. I don't think it's a lack of care or a moral deficiency. I think it's often a communication issue and also a very deep sense of inadequacy. But in any case, that's probably good stuff to address on another podcast. In the meantime, what I want to say is that in this scenario, she finally says to him, look, I've had enough. I want a divorce. And that's when he suddenly brings his creativity, his energy, all of this attention that she's been yearning for. He's now ready to really work on himself and transform the marriage. And sometimes he reaches out in this scenario and they create the most incredible results. And honestly, what happens often is it's just too little, too late, and she's already past the point of no return. So these are all a variety of circumstances that I'm describing where someone wants something and they're not getting it. For the rest of this conversation, I want to talk to you about the scenario where your relationship is strong, it's good, you love one another. In fact, there are probably people who know the two of you who wish they had a relationship like yours. It looks good on the outside, not a lot of fighting or anything like that. But you yearn for so much more, to be more emotionally connected, to feel more collaborative, to feel cherished, to feel seen and heard. And when you think about it, to be better able to give your husband the experience of feeling seen and heard, or your wife. In this scenario, you might bring up couples coaching with me. You've been listening to the podcast. You've read my book, Uncompromising Intimacy. You're perhaps in my Facebook group, The Intimate Marriage with Alexandra Stockwell, MD. In fact, if you're not, by all means, go to Facebook and join it. You follow me on Instagram and you see the kinds of things I'm posting there at alexandra.stockwell.intimacy. Again, all of these links will be in the show notes. In any case, you really are interested in what could really happen in your marriage, what is uniquely possible as a result of coaching with me, having my attention, my experience, and my devotion to your success be an additional ingredient as the two of you navigate life together, which results in your having tools to really just up level in gorgeous, gratifying ways. Okay, so I know you're listening and you feel this way, or you're someone who may at some point feel this way. And the question is, how do you get your partner on board when he or she isn't into it? Early in my coaching career, I spoke with this woman. She lived in Oklahoma and I was in California. So it was kind of a big deal for her to be contacting me. This was long enough ago, pre-pandemic, where it never had occurred to her that she'd reach out to someone outside her local area for support on something as intimate as communication and sensuality in her marriage. But she had a friend who knew me. And anyway, she reached out. We had a conversation. We had a great connection. So she told me she was going to talk to her husband about working with me. And I said, okay, great. And made a plan to hear back about how that conversation went. So when we reconnected, he said no. And I said, well, what did you say to him? And she said, I told him I want to do it because I think we really have some problems and that you, Alexandra, could help us. And he was like, no. And ultimately, I coached her in the way I'm about to coach you right now. And it worked. And I coached the two of them for 6 months. And he was so glad. And she was really glad. They had such beautiful results and were able to soften places that were hard and sticky between them. And they both felt more alive in their relationship. And as a family with their 3 young kids, they had so much more fun. The children were calmer, and none of that would have been possible if she hadn't learned to ask him to come to couples coaching in a very different way than she had before. So let me tell you what I told her, because you can use this too, and you can use it if you want to do couples coaching with me, but you can use it for anything that you want that is going to involve the 2 of you. So the first thing is to start by getting an opt-in. You want to say to your partner, I have something that I really want to talk to you about. Is this a good time? Or I have something I really want to talk to you about. Are you available to have the conversation now? I'm not giving you a script. I'm trying to convey that if your partner says, yes, let's talk about this now, that already is going to make for a better conversation. That doesn't mean he or she's going to want to coach with me, but it means you're going to have a conversation which is altogether more successful, and you both feel seen and heard because you're co-creating the conversation as soon as the other person says yes. It's not just that the other person is going on your ride and you feel like you're dragging the 2 of you along and carrying the emotions for both of you. Okay, so the first thing is you want opt-in. And if your partner says no, do not take it as a rejection. Do not think the conversation is dead in the water, because your partner doesn't even know what it's about yet. All you've said is, I want to talk about something important with you. Is this a good time? And if they say, what's it about? You can say, well, is it a good time? Because if it is, let's have it and I'll tell you what it's about. Or maybe you do tell them what it's about. Like, you use your own judgment and do what is best for your relationship. I'm not suggesting that you be sneaky if you have the kind of relationship where you would never say, are you available, before telling what it's about. But either way, what I want to emphasize is that it needs to be a question. This is not you informing your partner that you're going to have a conversation now, and your partner needs to feel free to say no. And if your partner says no, then you want to say, okay, no problem. When would be a good time? Or you're going to say, okay, no problem. I'll ask again later. Don't let your partner's availability in that moment determine the rest of the conversation. Keep it clear and straightforward. So whenever you're ready to have the conversation, you're both available to have it. Start by telling your spouse how much you enjoy being married. I'm going to use the language of him and her, but adjust it so it works for whatever gender you are and whatever gender your partner is. So tell him that you are so happy we got married 11 years ago, 26 years ago, whatever it is. I'm so happy to be in a committed relationship with you. And then list some of the things that you love about him, and also list some of the things that you love about the relationship. So if you're in a phase where you don't think you're going to have those handy, prepare a list ahead of time. And if you're someone who doesn't think on your feet and come up with words readily, just prepare ahead of time. It's no problem. And go ahead and share what you enjoy. We had such an amazing vacation when we went to Mexico a few months ago. I just love that time with you. Or, once the kids are in bed, we're both so tired, but I just love that it's you and me who are tired, falling asleep. Pick something that's genuine, that honors him and honors your relationship. And once you've established that, go ahead and then say, I think it could be even better. Or this area and this area, they're so great, but I think our communication could be better, or I think we could actually put some attention on our sex and have it be more satisfying for both of us. Or this and this is so good. And I wish we also could communicate better about finances. Like, whatever the truth of your situation is, have opt-in from both of you that it's time to have the conversation. Start by saying things you love about your spouse and that you enjoy about your relationship. And then pick an area that you would want to work on if you were coaching with me, and name that. And don't say, this is our problem area and you never listen to me. This is not a time for blame. It's not even a time for analysis. It's just a time to name the area of your relationship that you think could be better, or perhaps the area of your relationship that could be even better. And then go on to say, well, actually, ask him if he wants that part of your relationship to be better too. And then say that you really want to prioritize this for both of you. And you think that it would be awesome to have a conversation with Alexandra in order to hear more about how she works and whether or not she could help us with this. It's really that simple. So I'm going to review again. You get an opt-in that you're both available for the conversation. What do you love about your spouse in the marriage? And it's not exhaustive. Just name a few specific real things. And by real, I mean that you really do appreciate them. And then name an area that you'd like to improve on and ask if he wants to improve that area too. And then say that the way you want to do that is by couples coaching, and you want to have a conversation with me to see if now is the time and if that's a good fit. And this works. I just want to tell you, this works. If you and your spouse have a dynamic where when you ask for things, he's a no, asking for couples coaching in order to change that, in order to create a new dynamic, is not going to work because you're still in the old dynamic. He's still going to say no. So take this and use it for anything you want that is significant. And certainly if you want to work with me, use this method and see what happens. And if as a result, you end up having a rich conversation about the area that you want to work on and you don't reach out to talk to me, that is still a major success. Enjoy the progress, enjoy the conversation, and maybe you do this again in a little while when it feels like a strong desire again. I want to add one thing because it's relevant, and that is that I've had a lot of women reach out to me and say, I really want to work on our marriage, but my husband just isn't interested at all. And I always respond by saying, okay, well, ask him not if he wants to do couples coaching, just ask him if he's up for a 15-minute conversation with me. That's the only thing he needs to commit to, is a 15-minute conversation with me. And there definitely are husbands who say no and won't do that. But a lot of the time, the husbands are willing to have a 15-minute conversation with me. And 100% of the time when they do, they are then interested in having a longer conversation with both people in the relationship and me about what would be involved in working together. It doesn't mean that we end up working together 100% of the time, but 100% of the time, the outcome of that 15-minute conversation with me is that they want to pursue it further. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because so often a couple gets trapped in a particular dynamic. And when your wife is a strong, vivacious, determined, passionate woman, well, maybe you are a big old alpha also, but maybe you've learned to retreat and get quiet in the face of her passion when it's going in a direction that's different than the one you want to go in. And in this situation, the main reason that the men who speak with me for 15 minutes are then interested in going further is because the result of the conversation with me is that they see that I'm not committed to doing things her way. I'm committed to doing things in a way that works for both of them. And a lot of times women think their husbands aren't interested in personal growth, and that isn't really true. They're just not interested in the personal growth that looks exactly the way she wants it to look. And in that situation, using the method that I've described in this conversation with you is going to be really beneficial. So I'm just going to review it one more time, because when you're in the thick of it, it's easy to forget what to do. And the first thing is to make sure you both want to be in that conversation when it's happening. The second thing is to use your words and express what you're excited about, what really does work for you with this person and in this relationship. And then name the area that you'd like to improve on and find out if your partner wants to improve that area too. And then from there, it's pretty straightforward to talk about having a conversation with me if you're looking to do private coaching, or going to my website and looking at the Aligned and Hot Marriage program description and having a conversation about whether or not you'd like to enroll and get the incredible benefits of doing that program. So I have a request for you. If you're someone who's wanted to coach with me, go ahead and do what I've outlined and speak with your partner and let me know what happens. Either let me know because you're reaching out to schedule a conversation, or let me know because you're signed up for the Aligned and Hot Marriage program and ready to dive into that together, or let me know because it didn't work. And then we'll see what the next step is, because every now and then something else is needed. So I really hope that this has been valuable for you. I want to emphasize that I'm not encouraging you in any way to convince your partner to do something that they don't want to do. I'm just sharing with you a way to communicate, which is likely to be a lot more successful than what you have been doing if it wasn't successful. And whether or not you want to pursue couples coaching with me, what I've described is a really great method for asking for anything you want. If you want to go to Japan for New Year's, we'll find out if your spouse is available for a conversation. Talk about how much you love traveling together and some of the incredible trips you've taken, and share that you've been dreaming about going to Japan for New Year's. And would he or she like to go too? And maybe you don't go this year. Maybe you plan it for 2 or 3 years from now. But how amazing would that be to be looking forward to a New Year's in Japan, if that's something that you have a strong desire for in the first place? So I'm excited to hear what happens when you play with making requests in these ways. And I'm certainly excited to coach you if that's what you're ready for, is the intensity, the glory, and the profound transformation of private coaching. Or if you are really ready to dive in and work at your own pace, the Aligned and Hot Marriage program is certainly calling to you. I just want to end this episode by saying I am so grateful to you for being a part of the Intimate Marriage Podcast family. Please leave a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts so more people will find out about it. And I'm just so excited to continue the conversation with you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Intimate Marriage Podcast. For more information about Alexandra, her book, and her coaching services, go to theintimatemarriagepodcast.com.